All right, I think everything is now popping. It appears to be live. So I'm going to go ahead and start my program as soon as I get my other lead on here. So I want to put some material out on TikTok, but I don't want to do it live. So let's see. So we have a volume is up. I'm live. My mic is working. Okay. All right. So my name is Brother Francis E. Revels-Bey. My name is Brother Francis E. Revels-Bey. Sometimes I'm on TikTok as Pyramid One Son, so I'm doing a little mini recording for that live right now. This is Clear Blue Radiance, and I'm on usually every Thursday at about 1:15. But today we had a power outage out here in our city and in the area that I'm in, so I had to come on a little later. So it's approximately about 1:33 p.m. That's a 7, so that's a good number. So it's 1:33 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, and I'll have some other friends join me later. I had to redo my email and announce that I was going on late. So this is Clear Blue Radiance, and it's usually on every Thursday. And what I do is I share metaphysical and spiritual teachings with my audience. Now, since I had this power outage out here, I couldn't prepare to come on live with a new topic. So I chose a topic from May the 9th, and I'll give you that topic in a minute. Well, I've been doing spiritual counseling for 40, 45 years now. I enjoy helping a lot of people find their path, their purpose in life. Maybe they already have their purpose and they need to redefine it for themselves. It doesn't matter whether they're business people, entrepreneurs, if they're just artists or just someone that enjoys presenting information to other people, or they just want to know where they're at in life. So I'm here to help people do that and get a clear understanding. So the more that we can have clarity in our life and what we're thinking, what we're planning, what we're doing, there are some steps that we can take to shift that altitude, go up higher if we so choose, or just mellow out. We don't have to be Mr. and Mrs. Perfect all the time. We don't have to be the kings and queens of perfection. All we got to do is just look at where we are right now and what's the most important thing that we want to do. Not everybody wants to make tons of money, but that would be great. Not everybody wants to be on the top and be in the spotlight. Most of us, or most people, or even a few people, just like being where they are. They're tired of stress. And we live in a world of stress. And so we got to find different paths around us that we could change and shift into. And that's what today's topic is. Now, one of the things is I'm doing this on the Resonant Essentials Esoteric School of Metaphysics YouTube channel. So you can always take this link and pop it out to other people to let them know that I'm on live right now. Or if they can't watch live, at least they can come back and find this. Today's date is October the 17th. It's a Thursday, most of the time all over the world. Or it could be a Friday in other places. It could be a Wednesday in other places. But nonetheless, for most of us here in the USA, it's Thursday. And one of the things uh, being here and being affiliated, I believe, since 2015 with Resonant Essentials, which is now an esoteric school of metaphysics. I've had the pleasure of teaching a lot of different people from many different backgrounds. Some people are into metaphysics and spirituality and the occult, and some people aren't at all. They just want to get some basic tools in their toolbox so they can make some changes for themselves. Today's repeat topic, which was done on May the 9th of 2024, was entitled, If You Jump into Another Timeline, What Would You Choose to Create? Now, that's a good title, I think. People talk about quantum jumping all the time. There's a guy in the back behind me, these three little books on this side, like right where my thumb is pointing to. That's a gentleman by the name of Jonathan Goldman. And he's an elder fella in his 60s or 70s. Well, now that they say he's in his 80s, but he doesn't necessarily look like he's in his 80s. And this was a guy that had this technique, but he didn't know what to call it. Well, you know, the fellow, the young guy named Vashon, that runs the big company, one of the biggest companies in the world, Mind Valley. He was Jonathan Goldman's student. And Jonathan Goldman presented it to him, the concepts. And Vashon tried it out, and he found some ways where he saw himself in different timelines doing what he wanted to do, which was to have a large community globally, bringing all these master teachers in to teach and share their concepts, whether it was about economics, family life, personal development, uh, transformation. But most of all, he started out in the realm of talking about metaphysics and spirituality. And one of the people that he and Jonathan Goldman shared together in an understanding was the late Jose Silva. Now, I remember hard back in the 70s trying to take some of those courses. Back then, the money wasn't great, and I could never seem to get past the free introductory seminar. But I knew the material was good. I even got one of a book over here that's called The Silver Mind Method, the Ultimate Power Method, I think it's called. And it contains all the material. Jose Silva was a gentleman that lived in Mexico, and he fixed radios and TVs and things of that nature. And his children were struggling in school, and they had some difficulty in either staying awake or more than likely being relaxed when they took a test, or just to know that the mind was centered and relaxed enough to retain the information so that they could talk about it. They could articulate it in such a way that everybody knew that his children were studying. Word got out that his children were doing well with his techniques that he put together because he himself was into meditation on some level. And what he was able to do, he was able to bring these different hand mudras that he learned to accelerate his children's educational pursuits. And sooner or later, adults in his community were coming under his umbrella to try this out. And then eventually he became quite famous. Now his children run his program, the Jose Silva Mind Method. So, and Vashon had learned. And so did Jonathan Goldman. He was one of the beginning students in the USA to learn this. Well, anyway, there was a TV show called Quantum something, wasn't quantum jumping, probably quantum leaping. And Vashon loved the show. And he said, hey, why don't we call it your technique quantum jumping? the ability to go from one timeline to the next, not seeing these timelines as the past or the future, but to go to the right or to the left in one's mind into the universe and find themselves being an expert, being a better person at what they're doing now. And when Jonathan Goldman did this, he discovered, because he wanted to learn how, if he was could be a photographer, because he had an interest in photography, he had an interest in art, he had an interest in music, like listening to piano music. Now, he will tell you he's not trying to learn how to be a pianist. He just wants to pick up on that flavor and be able to produce music. And he was able to do that successfully, bring forth his artist and music skills from other lifetimes, bring back that information and apply it to himself in this world. And he's known to have paintings and photography work around the world in various galaxies, or I should say, galleries. Well, a lot of metaphysical and spiritual organizations have taught these similar steps, like the Astara organization, ASTARA, or the Rosicrucians. Both of them have been out a long time. Rosicrucians is known as the AMORC, the Ancient Mystical Order of the Rose Cross, dealing with the heart and how one can go back in time or in the other lifetimes, pursue themselves, find themselves, and learn what took them to become a successful being on earth. Masonic orders do the same. At some point, they learn these teachings. Someone coming in giving lectures, or they're doing some diligent study. Some who have the interest in metaphysical and the occult and spiritual things eventually go into that. Our intelligent agencies that are worldwide from every country finds their own people who can do this. They found people who could do remote viewing and apply it and do what? To do spying, to find their enemy, so to speak. All right. There was a group of people who were trained to do remote viewing, intelligence agent officers trained to do it. And they were able to come together. And during the Desert Storm with Iraq, they were able to find Saddam Hussein hiding on the grounds, not in the house, but on the grounds. Several were able to describe what it felt like, where he was, and able to locate him. These things are being utilized all the time, and the governments, the intelligent agency parts, are way ahead doing these skills. There's one out there, I think that's called Gateway. There's lots of them to what? Develop the human brain to get past the technical realm, get past the simulation, or as they call the matrix, and do what? Discover themselves. Not just spying, but how advanced it is to have a right hemisphere and a left hemisphere and a back lobe and a front lobe and something called a pineal gland and something called a pituitary gland, and how these two work together in the ancient yogic Hindu philosophies of the various different master yogis, whether they did transcendental meditation, hatha yoga, kriya yoga, Ashtanga yoga, all kinds. Every last one of them utilized to develop the human form so that one could be silent, still, and relaxed and travel to find themselves captured. Hey there, Will Talk Entertainment. To find themselves capturing and understanding their divinity. I myself was blessed to experience through my late Tai Chi Sifu back in on April the 7th, I believe it was. Yes, April the 7th, 1977, in New York City, Lower Manhattan. I was given this opportunity to receive what is called a Shaktipa. A Shaktipa is S-H-A, Shakti, Shaktipat, something of that nature. But anyway, what it's designed to do, the Shaktipa, is to awaken the Kundalini, the fire serpent, as uh, what was that group? Earth, Wind, and Fire would sing about back in the late 60s, early 70s. They would sing all about the serpentine power, as they call it. They were singing about the Kundalini as it released from the base chakra and would travel for many years up through the spinal column, called the Sushmana, up through the spinal column into the pineal gland, into the pituitary. And when the sparks would fly between the both, one could be on the road to awakening. Awakening to what? To higher consciousness. But what's interesting about awakening to higher consciousness? About who they truly are and truly can be. Paramhansa Yogananda came in the early 1920s, I believe, landed in Los Angeles, California, and began to teach yoga, the principles of yoga and meditation, and eventually founded his organization here called an Organization of Self-Realization. And what that means is to come to the realization that one is God on earth. One is at one with God in the heavens. Now, not so much way out in space, but within your consciousness, within your realm of understanding. So, today's topic, if you jump into another timeline, you, if you jump into another timeline, what would you choose to create? That means if you got the information and was able to bring that information back into your current state of who you are, and you understood it thoroughly, what would you create now with yourself? Well, first thing is, are we jumping out of fear or assurance? Because there's going to be, once some people learn this, I know there's going to be some people that's going to say, hey, my life is a sham, or hey, I'm not doing so well with other people. And there's always going to be some people who are like the charlatans who are going to run away from self responsibility and going to want to switch timelines and not clean up the one that they messed up. So you got to know why you are jumping, why you want to do this, what is significant, what is so important that you would do this. You have to overcome your fear of seeing life wasted, being in a rut, or having no true value. Now, some people go around copying other people because they don't know themselves. Some people are led by other people because those who are being led do not know themselves. So we have to contemplate deeply of our choices. And we have to realize that we can do this timeline jumping. It does have a purpose and it never ends. Your purpose about it never ends. It just keeps evolving as you change, as you elevate your consciousness. You're going to have a new reason and a new level of understanding about it. Now, what is a timeline? Is it linear or is it circular? Well, if you remember when you used to study in grade school, probably around fifth and sixth grade, they show you this graph with a timeline. And the timeline would show you where was man over 10,000 years ago? What was man doing over 10,000 years ago? And now man is in the, you know, 19th or 20th century in the 1900s. He's in the 20th century and he's making cars, lights. He has clothes. He has a better shelter for himself and his family. He's out there fishing. He's out there hunting. And then there's those who aren't doing any of those things. They're doing something else. Then there are those who become musicians and artists and craftspeople. But you get to see this timeline. And wherein the timeline is the concept of the human race called man. Or we should now say woman. Because even in those fraternal orders, they're not praying to a man. If you notice and you see them, some of them march in the parades, some of them are wearing an apron like a chef, but they're not worshiping man. They are, in essence, worshiping woman because woman is the true God. Man can't plant his seed just anywhere. He has to plant that seed with a woman who's willing to receive the seed, but she's the one that lets you know. Her body mechanics will let you know if the child will be a boy or a girl. The man has no say over that. The woman's body does. She is the one who represents the universe. And it's no accident that most of the boats at sea are named after women. And the sea itself is called a she. And Mother Nature, in its own vision, is referred to as she. So we see all these things, we learn all these things, but do we really understand these things? So the timeline, is it linear? If it's linear, it's got to come to an end. Is it circular, like an orbit? Well, people have found out and have studied over the years that it is circular, which means it doesn't have a beginning or an end. You don't know when it ends. You don't even know when it starts because man-made time has a beginning and has an ending. There's somewhere down the line where men all over the world and women were charting time, but time was infinite for a lot of tribal people. It didn't have a beginning start point and it didn't have an end. It was continuous. It was ongoing. And they would see the cycles. They would understand that certain things happen all the time. And we who lived in linear time have brought that into a circular pattern. Where we say, oh, what happened in the 1940s is something that's happening right now in the 80s. And something that happened in the 60s is happening in the year 2000s. And something that happened in 1990 is going to be happening. When we hit, it's happening right now, 2020, but it's going to be hitting, it's going to be getting stronger. And if you're an astronomer and an astrologer, you have something called an ephemeris. And the ephemeris is now written back in the day when I had the ephemeris, back in the 70s and the 80s, they had a book, I think it was the Circle of Books, is an astrological company that put out a white book with red title and put out a white book with blue title. And one took you up from 1900 for noontime casting, all the way up to 2036, 2037. And then one was the blue, and that took you from midnight time frame all the way up to 2036 or so, something to that effect. But any event, I have them on my shelf over here. Even though I got glasses, I can't see that far over, but they work. They have everything categorized where the planets are in the heavens, right down to 2 minutes apart from each other. You know where the planets are, where the asteroids are, some of the asteroids are, and how they're entering in and out of the astrological signs. And you could find somebody in there. You can clock it right down to the calendar, week, and day and time. You could find their birth within the 24-hour military clock system. But why am I saying all these? Why am I bringing in all these concepts? Because everything that we're looking at with ourselves is circular. We reflect on it, circular. In the martial arts, they reflect on circular movement. In people that study boxing, yeah, there's some straight line hits and stuff, but there's some arcing punches, but they're circling each other. They're not just standing flat foot in front of each other. But what we got to realize out of all of this is that we have a choice. Now, we've been making choices daily, whether that choice is to make a move or not. Many of you are thinking with all the political distractions, should I stay here or should I move? When COVID hit, many people were thinking, should I get out of Dodge or should I stay? And I used to think of that, where to get that term, get out of Dodge. And then when I traveled on the Amtrak 3 times, twice round trip and one final to get here in Albuquerque, I remember stopping late at night. The train came through at about 1 a.m. in the morning, and it was in Iowa, and the city was Dodge City. And I was saying, my God, there's a city that actually is here on the map. And one of the workers in that area got on and he had finished the paper. He said, hey, man, you like to read the paper? I said, yeah, this is interesting. Get out of Dodge. And he started laughing because he was an avid cowboy frontier kind of TV show guy. And we laughed about it a little bit. And he was getting off somewhere later down in Colorado. But just to have a laugh to get a Dodge City, Iowa newspaper, that was something. But anyway, everything is about choice. And those decisions are left up to us. We start to think at some point what is good for us and what is not good for us. Should we do something or not do something? How are we going to make our lives happier? Well, we are creative beings who are an integral part of the divine source. We also, well, where did we come from? We just didn't show up. We are a part of the mind and the heart, we might say, of the divine conscious self soul that's so infinite. We are like its trillions and billions of cells within it because we're in these different galaxies. And our galaxy is not the only one. There are beings with higher consciousness than us. They are beings of a slightly higher, similar consciousness, but are practicing wars and trying to conquer each other. But for the most part, there are beings here trying to do the same to each other. And there are beings here that are very loving. And there are beings here that are trying to destroy each other politically, religiously. through diet, through your appearance, through your income. They don't like you. But those of us who strive to feel better, do something distinctive with ourselves that frees our mind and allows us to graduate into something much higher for ourselves and for our family members. We are alive as rays of light emanating from the heart of divine source. We have a consciousness. We can think for ourselves. We know we got five physical senses, but we got eight other different clairs that attach to those five physical senses. We got a part of us that can psychically taste something before it comes to us physically. We can see it in advance, huh? Clairvoyancy using our eyes, and we could hear it through what is called clairaudiency. And we have this super sensitive touch, which is called clairtangency, but we know it by psychometry. We touch something and we could feel the experience where an object has been. We are the ones who are remembering. We are the ones who are dreaming and having lucid dreams, having out of body experiences, and communicating on a much higher level with our higher self. And how we doing that? Through meditation is one of the best ways. Meditation, get to the point of silent meditation, then you are on a higher ladder to receive information, hearing it very clearly, seeing it very clearly, feeling it very clearly. We have this part of ourselves that is an observer, a seer, a prophet, a creator who can create things, worlds. When you're in deep sleep or in deep meditation, you're entering a state of a very deep awareness. And here you have the opportunity to know the truth on a much larger scale, to know the truth about all events that you see happening around yourself. The interesting factor is, can we remember that we're getting all of this conscious state of perpetual meditation that we're having, where we don't even have to dip into meditation. We can be consciously awake and receive information, tune into things. This is why we're always contemplating about our day. We do it all the time. Let me get a little sip of tea here. We do it all the time, consciously and unconsciously. Do you know that your brain, like a computer fashioned after your brain, is constantly receiving data, constantly listening, hearing, seeing, tasting, touching, smelling, and beyond that? Even when you are in this so called deep sleep, you are traveling out of your body. So let me hold my little TikTok video, put this on pause because this will be just part one. And then I'm going to come back and give myself part two. Got all this stuff going on here. Windows all of a sudden doesn't recognize my equipment. Now, here's something. When we do this pattern of shifting, how do we go about the shift? What are we doing that allows us to have a benefit about shifting timelines? Because I say you have to decide in advance what is it that you're going to do so that you can shift. Or why are you shifting? What information are you really seeking? See, that's the first thing. And then here's this other part. Not everybody has been able to dip into it, remember it, and awaken with all of that information. It's not a one time attempt, it's not a one time journey. It's something that you have to literally do every day. You have to literally allow yourself to practice diligently through deep levels of meditation to consciously receive information, seeing yourself performing high level tasks and being successful or not, but you're seeing yourself perform. You're seeing yourself getting this information way down in another timeline. And here's the best part of quantum jumping is that time doesn't exist to you. You're not hung up in man made time. You're dealing with the cosmos. So when you're jumping timelines, all this stuff is streams of information on a higher level being streamed to you in living color through your higher self. And your higher self consciously is grabbing it, holding it, and assessing that information. And it's coming from what we call the infinite mind. The same thing happens if you were to study the seven hermetic laws. First one, all is mind. To be able to comprehend that. Then you got to understand the law of opposites. And then you got to understand the law of reciprocity. Then you got to understand the law of abundance or attraction, how all these things work. And you can't give up. Because if you're wanting to change what you're doing now, then you cannot give up. You must keep going. In other words, you're going to have trial and error with yourself. Trial and error. You're going to try something out. There's sometimes you're going to fail and you're going to fall short. But hey, you got to get back to the task of trying to understand how all this stuff works. And where do you fall into the greater picture of all of this? You see, Mother Gaia is intelligent, more intelligent than what you can imagine. Mother Gaia will unlock the door and let you come in the front door. And you might be aimlessly walking around and don't know that you're seeing something, and she'll let you out through the back door. And you're saying, man, I was just there, but I didn't get anything. No, you were just there, but you weren't awake enough to get something. You didn't have the level of understanding that you needed to awaken, to let your body be sound asleep. But you awaken on a higher plateau within yourself, and you realize, hey, there I am in the bed, on the couch, on the floor, in a sleeping bag, sound asleep, snoring away. You see your own eyelids flickering and flickering. That's the REM state, rapid eye movement of the dream world. So you see your eyes do that underneath your eyelids, darting about, up and down, back and forth. You see the eyelids doing like that. That's your nerve system. It's letting you know that you're in the state of what? Dreams. Eventually, you get into the state of lucid dreaming, LUCID dreaming. And that's where you realize that you are asleep and maybe out of your body, looking back at yourself, sound asleep, having that experience. And you are somewhere else in the greater sense of mind, of universe. Your subconscious mind linking in to the universal subconscious mind, receiving all that data, getting it clearly, being in there like the scientists, scribbling away, contemplating how you got there, but better yet, what are you looking for? And have you found it after numerous opportunities? You want to know that. You're going to realize that great people have done it in their own ways. I'm quite sure from that movie, Hidden Colors, that those four or five women didn't at one state, at one moment in their life, with all that math that they knew, but in one moment, they went a little deeper and heard something from their higher self, which they may have said angels of heaven speaking to them, may say God is speaking to them, into them, showing them these formulas. And we find out that those formulas were what? Extremely accurate. They understood it, they figured it out, and it was extremely accurate that those people could land and not crash. That takes a lot of chutzpah, a lot, to be able to calculate that for people who are out of the atmosphere coming in. Well, they are great Qigong masters, Tai Chi masters, karate masters, jujitsu masters, who are somehow mastering their emotions, mastering the physical body, mastering the mind, where their spirit is beyond their physical. To us, they are forming feats of strength. To them, it's just everyday thing. It ain't nothing but a transference of energy from one plane of existence to another, from one emotional body, physical body to another. They're transferring energy, and they're able to issue that energy so another person can feel it, whether it's self defense or whether it's healing. And in their deeper moments of contemplation, then meditation, they jump timelines. Why? Because they want to know what the master before them did, what the founder of the system did, and what was that founder thinking of when they developed those martial art techniques. So we begin to think, what is it that we can do when we're quantum jumping, when we finally understand the concept of going into another realm of consciousness, finding ourselves in that other realm of consciousness, finding that information that made that part of ourselves successful in that other timeline. And do we need to find out who else is in that timeline? Because it's not just ourselves. We might see a variation of who is in our life now and what are they doing. You might just see it and capture it through your eyes. What are they doing? Are they the same person that didn't have a job, but in another lifetime, you'll see yourself and them working fully? Or they didn't have a relationship in this time, and you'll see them in one of those timelines having several relationships, some off kilter and some directly on point, where love, romance, they had it all. You'll see some part of yourself that was super, super poor, and you'll find another part of yourself where you are 180 degrees opposite that. The most important thing is to discover, if you can, through deep sleep or meditation or being consciously awake and being able to do it consciously without going too deep. That means you would have to use your mind, or like the late Reverend Ike would say, let's go into the theater of the mind. You would have to create everything in your mind. But you might realize that that which you are trying to create already exists. Now, there's some moments when you're jumping the timeline that you don't recognize anything that's going on, and you don't have you can't remember some references from other lifetimes that would give you some sense of validation that you're seeing yourself performing particular things of skill. And that's why you must decide beforehand, hours beforehand, that what is it that you truly are seeking, and what do you want to learn from it. Hey, you could be like this guy Burt Goldman, learn that you're a master artist and come back, don't do anything with it. Master photographer, come back, you don't do anything with it, because you're thinking, I don't see no people around here that want this particular skill expressed on paper, notepad, as in writing music, canvas, sculpture, wood, metal, or other. I don't see it. So you don't want to become frustrated about using quantum jumping because you didn't find what you were looking for. Maybe you have to put that intention out that you will find your other puzzle pieces, your other soul aspects already living successfully. And you will hear that part of yourself have grown adult conversation, a full blown conversation, and able to describe the steps that one must take in order to be the best of the best in artistry, craftswork, music, dance, acting, being an architect, a car or truck mechanic, or bicycle or motorbike mechanic, or you're someone who details cars, trucks, and motorcycles, or you find yourself there as a chess master. Can you bring all that information back into this lifetime and recall it exactly as you experienced it? That's something that we would have to work on. We would have to work on our remembrance. What is it that we remember? How does it feel when we remember it? Does it make any sense or does it make sense? We have to figure it out. We have to ask those questions in advance so that we go prepared. These things are possible. Many people around the planet are doing it with out of body experiences, and they're doing it with other people. There are people who are sun gazers all around the world who are collectively meeting together and sun gazing together to have an ultimate experience. And then there's those who are studying, those who go about studying ET activity, and people are doing it in groups now, whereas they got the telescopes, they got the cameras with the big lens, long lens on them, they got tape recorders, right? And now they're sitting out in the desert somewhere striving to communicate with the energy of an ET, and they're trying to get that communication going. Is it happening? Even if it's not happening in the beginning, can that person strengthen themselves mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically so that when the experience shows up, they're there to experience it? They're there and they retain it through their memory because their body is receiving the energy. These things are important. You are seeking information from another timeline where you also occupy. You, us, we all occupy various timelines. Have we decided which one we want to go to? Have we decided which one we want to draw the information and why? And here's some things that intelligence agencies have said. You don't have a real conversation, you just observe. Well, if you're not psychically sensitive, That's like saying someone who's blind and they will never see through their other senses. So we can't put that information out there because there are many people having these experiences. Just recently, just now, 10, 20 years ago, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago. Knowing about these experiences and becoming an observer. And still, I say, this is just me, my opinion, from my studies, you can't leave meditation out of this. Because through the power of meditation, you will assist yourself in remembering every detail that you have come across when you were doing quantum leaping, and you'll remember it. And you'll remember the technique that you either learn or develop on your own. But nonetheless, you remember the learning process and you put it into motion directly whom you're striving to contact. Which one of you? The one that lived in China, the one that lived in Japan, the one that lived as a yogi in the Himalayan mountains, or the one that lived at the bottom of the mountains? As a Mongolian, as the one who lived in Ghana, the one who lived in ancient Egypt. You have to discover this about yourself at least ahead of time so you have some validation underneath your thinking cap when you awaken. You have to be able to find it. So that's my message for today. I wanted to repeat from Thursday, May 9th, and I taught it a little differently. It was called If You Jump Into Another Timeline, What Would You Choose to Create? And I taught this originally on Thursday, May 9th, 2024. I wanted to do a completely different topic today, but we had a power outage out here in Albuquerque. And so I didn't have time to write a new uh, script for a new podcast title. So we'll do that at another time. But I'm glad I had a chance to do this. I'm Brother Francis E. Revels-Bey. I'm the founder of the Circle Grace One. I've been affiliated with Resident Essentials, which is now Resident Essentials Esoteric School of Metaphysics, since uh, 2015. I am a teacher of meditation there, and I also do something called an Afternoon of Remembrance with myself, where I have people sit in a circle and we all meditate, and I give a guided meditation, and then I go around the room giving everybody some spiritual psychic insight. Well, thank you very much for joining me today. We'll talk entertainment. I know some other people were in and out of here, so I'm just going to call some names up because I don't see them in the chat. But hey, it might have been Golden Timeline in here. I was going to say, oh, I should have said Indigo Blue, Indigo Moon. Here she is. Yes, I should have said Indigo Moon. Yes, she's here. Will Entertainment, he's here. And of course, I know I have a feeling that Jackie Fillmore was here and Julie was here. She's known as Golden Timeline. And also, Barbara Ewing may have been in here. And Melanie, if you were able to see this later on demand, thank you for watching it. If you all have any questions, again, you can email me at iam.circleofgrace1. That's IAM, Apple Mary, dot circle of grace with the number one at the end at gmail.com. And, give me some criticisms. I'm okay with that. Give me your questions about today's topic. And if you want to know what I'm doing online, again, ask those questions too. I'll send you to my website. All right. Thank you so much for your time. Hope you have a pleasant day. I'm going to drink some more hot tea and just relax. Thanks again. My grace is your grace. Until next time, remember that divine grace is a blessing as we're alive and well in the age of remembrance. TikTokers, I will see you later. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot. Be well and have a great day. Today is Thursday, right? So have a great tomorrow and a great weekend while you're at it. Bye now.